All right, let's get to it. Let's talk a little NFL draft with the one and only Tony Pauline. We love him, man. At Tony Pauline, always kind enough every year to give us time. I've known him for like, I don't know, 20 years into him out there. Consulting editor and NFL draft analyst at sportskita.com. I know you're a Led Zeppelin guy. You want to chime in on that question with the three grunge bands?
Well, I don't know that they're grunge. I don't agree with their politics, but I saw them twice in concert, and it was nuts. Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I like
I
that.
saw them the
I
first
would
time.
consider them more grunge than I would Stone Temple Pilots. Are you with me on that? That Stone Temple Pilots?
I guess, listen, it's all music to me. But I got to tell you, again, I don't agree with their politics. I saw Stone Temple Pilots the first time at Roseland Ballroom in Midtown Manhattan, and it was nuts. I mean, it was nuts.
Yeah.
And then I saw him like a year or so later at the Meadowlands, which is a bigger arena. But wow, I mean,
Morello is awesome, dude. I mean,
I listen. You're right. I saw him twice in concert, so I did see Stone Temple Pilots. I think in between, I saw.
They were phenomenal.
Rage Against the Machine, summer of '96, summer '97, and I think that December I saw Stone Temple Pilots at Madison Square Garden, and they were good. I really enjoyed them.
By the way, what'd you think of the Led Zeppelin flick that just came out, Mr. Led Zeppelin?
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, I went before the premiere. I had pre-access in New York City, right by Lincoln Center. I sat front row, and it was everything. I knew most of the stuff, although there were some things I did not know. But just seeing them again, talking about how the band came to be, and I tweeted some stuff out. I mean, I laughed, I cheered, I cried at certain points. But watching John Paul Jones, Robert Plant, and Jimmy Page listen to this interview that had never been released before of John Bonham was just worth the price of admission.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It was great, but it was great how they put it all together too. I thought the production of it all, I thought it was also pretty damn good too, because obviously so much time has passed.
Of course. That's the amazing thing is all this time has passed. I went to the movie theater and it was packed. And when I tweeted this stuff out, a buddy of mine in the football business who lives in Manhattan said, "How did you get to see it tonight? I got tickets for Friday." He won a Friday afternoon show at 4:00, and he said the movie theater was packed.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Of course. I mean, if you love Zepp, you have to see it. I mean, give me a break. I mean, it's
it's amazing because 2 seats to my left was a woman who had to be 80 years old. And she's rocking out during Dazed and Confused. And in the part of the movie where they're playing Thank You, I turn around and I see a woman who's in her 50s and she's like lip syncing at the top of her lungs. I mean, it was everybody just enjoyed it. People were cheering their live performances. It was great.
Yeah, dude, greatest rock band of all time. I mean, how the hell are you gonna, that's it. It is what it is, brother. Mm-hmm. And it's just sad we could never get a little more taste of it, but that was at least the closest that we can get, which is really, really cool. All right, man. A Dolphin was asking me how he can be up about this season. And before I talk about the draft, it's quite a mess here, man. I mean, from an outsider's point of view, they got a lot of holes to fill, Tony, and a lot of important people walked out the door, and people that brought a lot of leadership to it all. And I just haven't been convinced of Mike McDaniel. I'm sorry. I just don't think he's head coach material, quite frankly. So just from an outsider's point of view, before we talk about the draft, how do you see this whole thing?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, it started a year ago, letting Christian Wilkins just walk out. It didn't seem like there was any sort of urgency to keep him. They let the safeties walk away this year. They bring in 2 guys. I mean, Ashton Davis, who they signed from the Jets, I can tell you firsthand, he's not a free safety. Good luck with that. He's a rotational safety who's a special teamer. Teron Armstead retiring. I don't know if they were blindsided by that, but I don't know if they prepared for that with Patrick Paul. But I mean, everything revolves around Tua and keeping Tua healthy and keeping Tua upright because, that is their chance. They're linked to be competitive. I can understand the frustration because it seems like there's more talent walking out. And I don't think that's just McDaniel. I think that's the front office as well. More talent walking out than they're bringing in.
Yeah, I see. As I've told Dolphins, the problem is like you got to understand your player and who you have. Okay, you have a guy that's not a mobile guy, right? He's like a Drew Brees, he's like a Tom Brady, he's like a Peyton Manning. You need to build the wall of Montezuma in front of him. They have failed to do that every year, and the
And
guy
he's
has to make
small,
a
and he's
decision
small, and
every
he has concussion issues.
right.
So
But you can't have a line that gives them 2 seconds and not a dominant running game. When you have these kind of quarterbacks, you must give them a line and you must give them a running game. Tom Brady always had Dante Scarnecchia. Okay, when Scarnecchia retired, they had to beg him to come back because as great as Mahomes is, the 2 Super Bowls he's lost, it's because his offensive line got their asses kicked. And
yep,
that's Pat Mahomes, dude. That's
yep.
super special. We had Marino here. That's super special. That's not Tua. If you have these kind of guys, you gotta build like in Alabama, and that's where that works. Build a line, give him a running game, and then he can live off of the play action, and everything else. But if he's got to do more than that, that's not who he is, dude. It's just not who he is.
No, I agree. I mean, listen, we're here in New York, and the Jets and the Giants. It's been a disaster primarily because their offensive lines have been disasters. Joe Douglas came
Right.
in from the Eagles. Prior to that was the Ravens, two organizations that prioritize offensive lines, and he did nothing here. And again, you look at the Eagles. I mean, the Eagle fans go crazy when Howie Roseman drafts offensive linemen early. I remember a couple of years ago when I said they were going to take Cameron Jurgens in the second round. People said, "Oh, you're a fool." They take Cameron Jurgens in the second round. Eagle fans lost their mind. Aren't they happy that he took Cameron Jurgens in the second round? He takes offensive linemen even when it doesn't seem the need is there, and it's one of the best in all of football.
Well, because I talked about this. Certain teams, dude, it doesn't matter who you are if you're the Steelers, and I don't give a shit what coach you are. This is our philosophy, and this is how we're going to do things. Hey, we're the Baltimore Ravens. We don't give a shit who the GM or the head coach is. This is the way we do things. The Green Bay Packers, it's amazing. Nobody else does this. You and I grew up this way. That you draft a quarterback, you sit him on his ass for 2 or 3 or 4 years, let him learn, and then they get away with it with Favre to Rodgers and now to Love. Meanwhile, the entire league doesn't even do it. You know what I mean? But those people and those teams, and Green Bay drafts a lot of linemen too. All these teams that have a set philosophy, it has paid off for them. This is who we are. This is our identity. And this is one thing I've talked about with the Dolphins. They have no identity, bro. You have no idea what they're going to be from season to season because you change so much.
And those organizations that you mentioned have stability in the front office
Right.
and in their coaching staff because of that. Everybody talks about you've got to get the quarterback. You've got to get the quarterback. But just to build upon what you said with the offensive line, you also have to have the quarterback culture in the franchise. You have to have the people around the quarterback that are going to develop that player and get the maximum out of them. It's not coincidental Marino had the success he did under Don Shula. It's not coincidental that the San Francisco 49ers can bust by trading up for Trey Lance, but take a quarterback with the last pick of the draft and have great success with him. Or the Eagles bust with Carson Wentz and then win a Super Bowl with the quarterback that they drafted late in the second round. And then you have organizations like the Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets who are constantly fumbling over their own feet at the quarterback position, whether it be with early draft picks or quarterbacks they selected early in the draft, whether it be with veterans that they bring in. So, you're right about the philosophy with the offensive line, but it's also with the quarterback position as well. And they go hand in hand, obviously.
All right, let's go with the number 13th pick in the draft for the Dolphins. And now they can go in so many directions. They can go with the guy that can play guard, left tackle, because okay, he can play guard, or if Patrick struggles a little bit, well, we'll move him inside. This guy will play left tackle, or they can go defensive tackle, which they desperately need. They can now go definitely corner now
Yeah.
with the whole Jalen Ramsey mess. You can even go wide receiver, which is a complete stretch. But with the whole Tyreek Hill thing, he's only here for a year at best overall. There's so many safety you can go that you need it desperately. So, Tony, you follow this is better than anybody else out there, dude. What's the play for the Dolphins since they need so damn much?
Yeah, I mean, even before the Jalen Ramsey mess, I mean, they needed a cornerback.
Yeah,
Are you happy with the Storm Duck as your starting corner? The past couple of mock drafts, I've had them taking Will Johnson of Michigan with that selection. I think that Kelvin Banks would be a good pick for them. I don't think Kelvin Banks is going to be there when they select. I think that's a guy that they would jump all over. I think they have the opportunity, whether it be, and really even early on, you mentioned defensive tackle. I had them taking Kenneth Grant of Michigan in my initial opening mock drafts back in December. So they're going to be able to get a good player at a position that they need to fill a hole at, whether it be cornerback, whether it be safety. Malachi Starks was a consideration early on, whether it be defensive tackle or offensive line. But I think the way it looks now, if you're looking for a interchangeable left tackle guard, that player would be Kelvin Banks, and I don't know that he's going to be there at 13, which is why I have him taking Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan.
And by the way, okay, you tell me, way more than I ever will about this. The Will Johnson thing makes a lot of sense because when you roll around in the second round, aren't you deep at guard and defensive tackle in this draft? And at that spot, who are you looking at? If you're taking Will at 13 and you got your corner in that second round, are we rich at that area in that position with the Dolphin needs? You tell us.
Well, the other thing is this, and just to expand on your point, it is not a good cornerback draft. So if you want a cornerback, a guy that can start, and even the top cornerbacks have questions, you better get him early because it kind of falls off a cliff. Now, to your point, I mean, yes, round two. I think in my mock draft, I had him taking Ursery of Minnesota, Aaron Ursery, the left tackle from Minnesota, who has tremendous upside. He's very athletic, kind of 50-50 whether he's going to be there. Left tackle who can also play guard.
Okay.
But what you're asking about, yes, I mean, Marcus Bowe is very likely to be there in the second round. Wyatt Millam will definitely be there in the second round. You're talking, even later on, TJ Sanders, the defensive tackle from South Carolina, will be there. So you should be able to get a good offensive lineman, guard, tackle, interchangeable type lineman, or a defensive tackle in the second round, where the talent at the cornerback position really drops off.
What happens in the third and fourth with the Dolphins' needs? What are the strengths in those areas?
Well, I mean, it's a good defensive tackle draft through the third and fourth round. Alfred Collins of Texas in the third round. I don't know that Ty Robinson's going to be the defensive tackle from Nebraska, but if he is, I mean, that's a great pick. Joshua Farmer of Florida State in the third round should be there. That would be somebody that you got to consider when you're looking at guards. The two Georgia kids, Dylan Fairchild and Tate Ratledge, are terrific third round considerations. Emory Jones of LSU, tackle guard, although he's specifically a right tackle prospect. Charles Grant of William and Mary, college left tackle who projects to guard. Very athletic kid's going to need some time. But again, at those two areas that you mentioned, offensive tackle, guard, as well as defensive tackle, there'll be players available there.
All right. Walk me through this, dude. Tell me why I'm wrong. And I know what I've been saying down here is kind of blasphemy. But I have a nod to Shador over Cam. I love Cam's talent. Obviously, it's superior to Shador's. But when I look at passer and accuracy and anticipatory skills and all those kind of things, Cam did a lot of hero stuff down here. He had a line that gave him 8-9 seconds at times, and he threw a lot of crazy stuff across his body and all that I think he's going to pay the price in the NFL early on in his adjustment. There wasn't a lot of structure passing where he would 3, 5, 7-step drop, plant, throw right away. There was a lot of ad-libbing and holding onto the ball, and he did phenomenal. But I thought Shedeur played under more structure and even played behind a bad line at times and took some hits and everything. I just think he's the better passer. Why am I wrong? Because most folks say Cam is the better quarterback. Have at it.
Yeah, I would agree that I'm not going to go there with Shedeur Sanders over Cam Ward. Now, a couple things. I would agree with you about Shedeur Sanders playing behind a horrible offensive line, and that never really, father never really helped. No, the coaching staff there never really helped them bringing in offensive linemen or keeping the good offensive linemen that they have. Shedeur Sanders fundamentally needs a lot of work on his game. He throws with improper footwork. He throws off his back foot. He puts the ball up for grabs. He's not a strong arm guy. Cam Ward's got a stronger arm than him.
Yes.
He runs backwards when he's being rushed, which is a terrible thing, as you may find out if Zach Wilson ever takes the field for the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, God, no.
And I think for me, I agree with your criticisms about Cam Ward. He tried to improvise too much, as did Shedeur Sanders. The cross-body passes have got to be coached out of him. But I think for me, what I always prioritize is a quarterback that has improved his game, that has shown an improving game, that is coming off one of the best seasons of his college career. That's Cam Ward. I mean, you could tell from the first game of the season against Florida, it was a completely different Cam Ward from what we had seen when he was at Washington State. And that just got better and better and better. And, he had good receivers there. He didn't have great receivers. He didn't have Travis Hunter. You got to remember, Shedeur Sanders has got 4 receivers that will either be drafted or 3 of them are going to be drafted and one's going to be signed as a priority free agent. And I didn't see much improvement in Shedeur Sanders, which to me is a big red flag. I thought he was the same quarterback in 2024 as he was in 2023. In fact, I thought he even regressed in some areas. And coming into the season, Shedeur Sanders was my number 1 rated quarterback. So I expected a lot of them. I don't think I got I know I didn't get as much as I was hoping. And, I wrote an article at Sportskeeda on Monday about how Shedeur Sanders seems to be sucking all the oxygen out of the room with conversations about Shedeur Sanders. And I think he's going to he could potentially drop a long ways a week from now.
Yeah, I'm with you there. By the way, to bring our conversation full circle, that also happened because Cam got to a place that actually gives a shit about the offensive line and the running game. And he had 3 stud running backs and he had a stud offensive line, which, as you know, you have not been scouting offensive linemen coming out of the University of Miami over the last few years. Well, that shit is changing now over the next couple of years in this draft and the next draft. There's a couple of guys that are going to be drafted from the University of Miami. So because of Mario Cristobal's nature, that helped also Cam. And I wish Shedeur had that because I think maybe you also see a little bit better play like any quarterback, going back to Tua or whatever we were talking about earlier. If you block for the damn guy, brother, you're going to be able to win some. It's going to help.
The only thing I'll say to that is I think it was the Colorado offense was more receiver centric. And I wrote this in the article on Monday. I mean, the tight ends, which Miami used, Elijah Roy is going to be a day 2 selection, and he's got great upside. Was never a factor in the Colorado offense. You mentioned the running backs. I mean, Damian Martinez transferred to Oregon State. He gets to Miami, and he basically was used in a rotational role because they had such a great stable of running backs there, which could help Damian Martinez in the future because he didn't have the amount of carries everybody expected he was going to have in 2024. I mean, I agree with you. There's just, and we haven't even talked about, the Dion factor when it comes to Shedeur Sanders. And there's a lot of teams that are very concerned about that. So there's a lot there with Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. So give me the guys. What do you see? Jalen Rivers, one of the guys we just talked about, guard, tackle, can kind of play 2 different positions. What do you think about the guys that we talked about Cam? Give me the rest of the guys that you see coming out What do you think in your draft grades?
I think number one, the top tight ends from this year's draft will actually be day 2 or 3 guys, and it'll happen 2 or 3 years down the road. Everybody talks about Tyler Warren, but Elijah Arroyo is at the top of my list. I think that as he learns to become a complete player at the position, he expands his route tree, he becomes a better blocker. He's got the athleticism, he's got the pass catching skill. He just has to really complete his game. He can be one of the best tight ends to come from this class. Tyler Barron, I think, is a woefully underrated prospect, but the fire isn't always on for Tyler Barron. I mean, 6'4.5", 58 pounds, runs and plays to a 4.62. He's athletic. He's explosive. He can make a lot of plays behind the line of scrimmage. You're talking about a fourth-round guy who, if he played up to his potential, is a day 2 selection. We talked about Damian Martinez is one of my favorite running backs in this draft. 217 pounds, but he's not just a downhill grinder. He doesn't just run through defenders. He can run around them. He can create his yardage. He's got great instincts and vision.
Third round for him. Fourth round.
That's exactly where I have him. Third round. Okay. And he's a terrific pass catcher out of the backfield. Just with Martinez, you watch him this year, but you have to go back to the Oregon State film from 2023, I think, to really fully appreciate him. They've got some sleepers at the receiver position. Sam Brown, the transfer from Houston, showed flashes. I don't think he lived up to his expectations of what people thought. Jacoby George, small, but a real good pass catcher. Rapestro, once you get past the fact that, they had to take the sundial out to time him at pro day, he's an outstanding route runner. He's a tough pass catcher. He's a fundamentally sound pass catcher. He knows how to separate. He's going to be a real good underneath receiver. You talked about Jalen Rivers. I have him at guard. He's got terrific size, relatively athletic, needs to just consistently block with power. I'm looking at Rivers now as a fourth-round choice. A lot of good players out there from the school. I left out the middle linebacker, Francisco Moegoa.
Maui Noah.
Thank you. He could potentially be a late-round pick. Simeon Barrow won't get drafted, but he'll be signed after the draft as a PFA, a smaller, explosive, one-gap defensive tackle like the kid they had last year who was with the New York Jets.
Okay. All right. We'll wrap it up with this. And, of course, follow Tony Pauline. Go to Sportskeeda, get all his work there. Who's the best player in the draft when it's all said and done 2-3 years from now? Who's the best player? We talk about all these guys. We know the quarterback will go one, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's the best player. Who's the best player, Tony?
I've had Abdul Carter rated as my number one player from this draft, and I'll go with Abdul Carter. He's more than an edge rusher. I mean, they used him as a defensive end this year at Penn State, occasionally standing over tackle. Again, you go back and you watch the 2023 film where he was able to play in space. He played more of a traditional linebacker spot. He was good in coverage. He's great pursuing the run, great pursuing the ball carrier and run defense. It's funny because, like you said, the quarterback will go number one, but he's not necessarily the best player in the draft. You and I go back a long way, and 25, 30 years ago, it was the impact defensive player that was the most coveted when it came draft time. Every team wanted the impact defensive player. That's exactly what Abdul Carter is. One other guy that I think is going to be very good that people are not talking about down the road, Armand Membo, the right tackle from Missouri, rising up draft boards. He's been a terrific offensive lineman for the Tigers the past 2 years. Had an outstanding combine. I see nothing but incredible upside for a guy that's already a real good football player.
A couple months ago, I was dreaming that maybe he could be there at 13. Now, forget about it, baby. That man's going to be, what, top 5, top 7?
The Dolphins could be playing against him twice a year. If the Jets get their wish and he falls to 7, he's going to go either 4, 5, 6, or 7. The Patriots, the Jaguars, the Raiders, or the Jets.
Yep. The Jets, another team. You bring a 40-year-old quarterback, and you don't build a line in front of him. I mean, it's just like, craziness is done in this league all the time, dude. It's insanity. Tony, if they want to follow you for the draft, what do they got to do, my man?
like you said, at Sports Skeeter or at Tony Pauline. That Tony Pauline will tell you where I'm at the moment. A lot of interviews the next couple of weeks. We'll have updated rankings, and we have the mock draft simulator at Sports Skeeter, which people find very addictive.
There you go. Tony, as always, thank you, my brother. Have a great weekend and enjoy the draft.
Same to you. Thanks for having me back again.
You got it, my man. My pleasure as always. Thank you. Tony Pauline, sportskita.com. And you can follow him on X at Tony Pauline on X. There you go. All right, good stuff. Told you guys I give you some draft talk this week.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.